Hey everybody, Paul Turner here from thediscipleproject.net with video 2 in the series of Real Youth Pastors Don't Starve. And it is my hope and desire that you've watched the first video. If you have not, please go ahead and click the link up there somewhere. Otherwise, it'll be in the description below. And I tried my best in the first video to convince you of something, to convince you that yes, you are a youth pastor, but you're more than that, that you're an artist. You're a creative person. You're a creative talent. You're somebody who doesn't just fall off the banana truck and fall into youth ministry. You have skills, abilities, and talents. And a lot of people don't recognize that. But let me tell you something. After 27 years of youth ministry, I understand that you have to have some kind of creative ability to be doing what you're doing, whether anybody recognizes that or not. This guy recognizes it. So let's move on and let's move into another phase here to kind of percolate those desires in you to create even more. And hopefully this will benefit your youth ministry in great ways, because let me tell you something. One of the first lessons I learned as a youth pastor was to steal everything. Steal it. Now let me explain. I was sitting in a room, I think I was at a youth specialties conference, and I heard Doug Fields speaking. And listening to Doug Fields talk about, all the great tools and ideas that they had out Saddleback, I, for some reason, thought you had to be original. I did. I thought, man, you just got to get it out. You got to get it out of yourself. You got to grunt. You got to push. You got to make something original. And when he said, listen, the first rule is this: be sure to beg, borrow, and steal everything. Let me tell you what, that changed my whole worldview, because a lot of times we're waiting for, listen, God brings creativity. God is the author of creativity. And what happens is sometimes we sit and we wait with our hands out and we go, God, just drop it in, right? Let me tell you something. God works with us, right? We can stand with our hands out all we want, but you know what? To beg, borrow, and steal. Now let me explain that, because you say, well, Paul, I don't want to rip other people off. I don't want to take anybody else's stuff. Let me dig down into that a little bit more. Jeff Goins says in his book, Real Artists Don't Starve, which is what this series is based upon, he says the starving artist strives to be original. The thriving artist steals from his influences. So ask yourself, what influences you? Who are the people around you? What ministries, what resources, what things do you have in your arsenal that you can beg, borrow, and steal from? Because those become the impetus, those become the spark that can help you to generate even something original. Let me give you an example. I've watched many cooking shows where a chef will say of somebody that's cooked a dish and says, I am so going to steal that. Boy, that is refreshing, because you know what? Even the chef understands that he is not going to come up with anything necessarily original as much as he's going to steal from other people, put his own twist on it, and make something happen out of that. Now listen, in the first video, I tried to convince you, yes, you are an artist. You're an artist, you're a creative, you're somebody that has gifts, abilities, and talents. You have the ability to write maybe, or edit video, or create sermons, or whatever it may be, illustrations. Now listen, I would not suggest that we just go ahead and blanket steal somebody's stuff without giving credit. You got to give credit where credit is due, right? When I use a game or use something else, I'll say, they say, well, how did you find that? Or you're so creative, you just made that up yourself. I say, no, I found that on the internet. That's what the internet is for these days, is to find games or find other things. And I give credit where credit is due. If I put something in a message, or I put something in something I create and put in my store, I always try to attribute to where the original idea came from. Let me give you 2 areas that we should be stealing from on a regular basis. Number 1, we should be stealing from other youth ministries, right? I understand. We all want to be our creative selves. We all want to be our originals. But listen to me. You don't have to be original all the time. It's okay to look at the guys down the street and say, well, hey, they got something good going on. How can I take that and put my own twist on it? We can't always be, the kid on the block with the new toy. Sometimes we got to, go to the thrift store and get some old toys and say, look, we got to have something. But listen, don't freak out and go, well, I'm a terrible youth worker because I can't think of anything original. That's just not true. We take it, we should adapt it, we should change it, we should refine it, and then make it uniquely ours. Because listen, it's tough to take an idea. Only do this, only steal from an idea if you know you can make it work with your group, because there's no sense in taking a round peg and fitting it into our square hole that is our youth ministry, because if it's not going to fit and you're going to sit there and pound it with a hammer, well, it's just not going to fit. Make sure that it's going to fit. And if it doesn't fit the way it is, that's when you get creative. You say, well, it'll work if I do it this way. The second area you should be stealing from is culture. Yes, culture, because not all culture is terrible. There are things out there that we can use. Jimmy Fallon is a part of culture. And he does some of the best games on the planet, whether it's egg roulette or the giant hand slap or whatever that is, or box of lies, all these things. Listen, you can steal from culture and say, listen, this is going to be fun. This is going to be something cool. We can do that within our youth ministries. I steal from culture all the time. If you visited my store, and if you haven't, I hope that you will. I'll put a link down there below. At my store, listen, I've done something called the Hunger and Thirst Games. When the Hunger Games came out, man, that immediately came to me because the word hunger, and if you remember from my last video, I said, listen, have a great breadth of knowledge of Scripture, and everything will come to you. You'll relate everything. So the minute I heard Hunger Games, I thought of the Hunger and Thirst Games, and I based everything on Matthew 6:33. We hunger and thirst after righteousness. It's a 4-week study. I stole from a TV show called Top Shot. It's the Apostle Paul's guide to top shot living. And listen, it's all about, we use, Nerf guns and things like that, and targeting and using cool weapons. And it was a guy's Bible study. It's very cool. The other thing I stole from Star Wars, right? And I call it Soul Wars. But I just use the name, and it talks about winning the war within. And I did it right at the time when the first Star Wars movie was coming out just a couple of years ago. And so using all this, and culture is just a part of that. I don't have to be original. I can be creative with what the culture gives me, as long as it's appropriate, as long as I can take it and say, look, how do we make this work, and how does the gospel shine through this? Now listen, I didn't steal creative license from any of these properties in my stuff. I don't put a bunch of Star Wars stuff, and I don't put a bunch of Hunger Games stuff. I don't steal logos or pictures or anything like that. Listen, I do, once again, that was the impetus for the creativity. It was the spark that said, look, from the point of culture to the word, and then boom, out comes these 4 or 5 lessons. And same thing can happen for you. Listen, as Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. All good ideas and inspirations come from God. You have access, just like I have access, to the same God of all creativity. So you can take the things that are around you, that are influencing you and your culture within your area, and you can put them to work in your youth ministry just like I did. In Jeff Goins' book, he says this. He says, if we want to become artists, we're going to have to break some rules. We cannot do just what is expected of us. At some point, we must break away from the status quo and forge a new path. As it turns out, this is how creativity works best. And that is so true. So true that sometimes we have to break the rules, whatever the rules are in youth ministry. I would love to hear what you think the rules are down there in the comments, and which of those rules maybe you might have to break to have this breakthrough of creativity. So stop killing yourself to be the original, right? There's tons of influences around you that you can beg, borrow, and steal from. Be sure to go ahead and look down there, look down below. There's a playlist there with games on it that I use in my youth ministry. There's all kinds of things you can use. That's what this channel is for. It's to encourage you, the youth worker, and say, listen, you can be creative. You can be that person. You can be the creative, force that you want to be. And I'm trying to convince you of this and say, listen, you can be more than what you think you are. And I hope that you do. I hope that you begin to see yourself as more than just, some guy that comes or some girl that comes into the office and you shuffle papers and you work on sermons. And listen, that you can be a creative force within your youth ministry and unleash the creative forces of the students that are in your youth ministry to help bring about a great movement where God is glorified in the midst of the artistry. If you think about the Old Testament where the great artists were used to build the temple, guess what? Your kids can use their gifts, abilities, and talents to build the temple, to build the ministry, to build the kingdom right here on earth. And I hope that you will see beyond what you may be seeing in the mirror every day and look down deep and say, listen, deep inside of me, there is an artist ready to come out. But that's it for today, guys. I hope you guys liked the video. Be sure to check out the first video. If you're brand spanking new, by the way, thanks for hanging out with me. Appreciate you being here, being a part of the channel, being a part of the community. If you're not a subscriber yet, please, please, please be a part of the community. Well, I want you to be a part, so go ahead and hit, by the way, over here somewhere is a head of me somewhere. If you'll click on that maybe towards the end of the video, you'll be able to click on that and get videos like this in your inbox. If you're a regular, listen, youth worker, creative youth worker, the regulars, the guys that keep showing up here, thank you so much. You guys are the lifeblood of this. I want you to leave some comments down below and let me know, have you ever felt the pressure to be original? Do you feel the pressure to be creative? I would want you to help me with this discussion here and get something going down in the comments. So, all right, but that's it for today, guys. Appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. That's when you like the video and you want more of them. And, of course, don't forget to share it. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Talk to you later.